Coconuts TV. October 3rd was the most volatile day of Occupy Central since Sunday's tear gassing. Anti-occupiers showed up at the main demonstration sites, sparking numerous brawls between them and the pro-democracy protesters. At Mong Kok, the streets were clogged with thousands of protesters. A row of police stood guard, trying to keep the peace. They created a barricade to separate the pro-democracy crowd from the anti-occupiers, but their efforts were in vain. We saw several people hurt during altercations. In one instance, an older man who was an anti-occupier got knocked to the ground and had to be carried away by police. Several journalists were also attacked during brawls, including our cameraman, who was punched in the face by an anti-Occupy protester who didn't want to be filmed. From the late afternoon until about 9 p.m., the crowd grew larger and denser. At times, people were so squished together that it felt like a concert mosh pit. At one point, a pro-democracy protester on a ledge above the crowd raised a red umbrella and led a chant encouraging everyone to protect the students. The big question on everybody's mind was, who were these anti-Occupy protesters, and where did they come from? Several students that we spoke with speculated that they were hired thugs. Others thought they were Beijing operatives being paid by the Chinese government. We tried to interview the anti-Occupy protesters several times, but they refused to answer any of our questions and tried to shield their faces from our cameras. At the Causeway Bay protest site, anti-occupiers also showed up. Mainly middle-aged men and women started yelling at the protesters. A couple men became violent, tearing posters off, trying to pull down barricades and pushing protesters. Multiple scuffles broke out, and one anti-occupier was taken away by the police. Some harassed Al Jazeera reporters who were filming. In the early evening, a group of men wearing surgical masks arrived. They violently dismantled barricades and pushed protesters and police officers with no apparent fear of consequences. The police controlled the situation by forming a human chain to isolate the masked men from the crowd. After an anticlimactic standoff between the protesters and police outside the chief executive's office last night, it had seemed like the protests might be dying down. But today, the pro-democracy protesters seem determined to stay strong. Student leaders were supposed to meet with No. 2 government official Carrie Lam on Saturday to negotiate a resolution. But they called off talks late Friday night, saying that the authorities had failed to prevent today's violent attacks on protesters.